And welcome, folks, to another edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown, focused on the defense with Mr. Vance Bedford. Going a little early this week because Vance has some things to tend to, some other things to take care of during his time in Lone Star State. Vance, before we get started and we start talking Michigan, I saw you down. Got some pictures from you down in Texas. Did they welcome you back home down in Lone Star State there, Vance, over at UT?
Oh no, babe. I tell you what, I had a chance to go to Austin this past week. I had to speak to some people, and so I had a chance to tour the facilities. And one of the ladies there, she was one of the football ladies who run the office for us. Everything was locked up toward the coach's office, so I called her. She gave me a tour of the facilities, and I'll tell you what, they put some big time money into it. They really did. I mean, I think I might have sent you a picture of one of the barber chairs they had now. I'm like, it must be gold on this thing. I mean, it was really nice. I mean, so I enjoyed my time there. So I had to speak to some medical professionals. I'm like, I'm a football coach. Why you people calling me? And what it was, they were different, I guess, either presidents or CEOs of small companies dealing with from healthcare to orthotics to orthopedics to all type of things. And I was supposed to have a 10-minute talk. It lasted 30 minutes. We had a blast, man. We started talking. They had a great time. They want me to sit down. So I enjoyed my short trip to Austin. It was a day trip, 3 hours to get up there, spent 3 hours there, and then came back that night. So it's been a good week for me.
Okay, all right. Getting down there back to your old stomping grounds, Vance, as people say they own the train. They own the train with Vance. And I think need to get some people on the train with your assessment of Michigan. They go out and they take care of business against the Hoosiers. Now, hey, look, on the surface, Hoosiers not a very good team. Record says they're not this is a team that Michigan should be 52-7, right? But when you go back and you look at the tape, Vance, on both sides of the ball, that was a team that has some good schemes coming in this gate. Where in the first quarter they kind of threw some things at Michigan that kind of tested them a little bit.
Well, you had a change of play callers in Indiana. They had two new guys calling plays. So Jesse went to the ball game not sure what he might see. So in our film study, the first play of the game was formation of the boundary. So our first call was our Nichols Sam, and we executed that to perfection. You hear me talking all the time. If you count to three, you can play for me, sometimes four, and that's how they got aligned. And they aligned to perfection. So first play, no game. The very next play, they came out in unbalanced formation, another strange type formation. We had Nichols Sam rolling the cover two. Again, it should have been a tackle for loss, but they gained 2 yards. So the first three plays, they gained 2 yards. It's a three and out. And see, when the offense not clicking right away, it's the team not playing well. But the defense overall, from start to finish, did a great job. And you got to understand, they have 85 guys on scholarships. So therefore, they're going to nickel and dime you because we are better. Eventually, it's going to be a good old fashioned take them to the woodshed and don't let them come out. And that's what it ended up being, is that way.
We go over at length in the film study, and I highly encourage that if you're watching this, I figure like you're a diehard. When you get into the defense, this how I weed people out. Like, Devin he gives you like the broad stroke, gives you some great intricate detail, right? From the quarterback perspective. He's popular. He looks like Prince Akeem from from Coming to America. He looks like Victor Sweet from Four Brothers. I mean, he was getting all like he's the entertainment with some knowledge, right? And people love offense. If you want a dissertation on offense, then you watch Al, right? Because Vance, I had to show him the text. I had to show the text during the deal. Vance sent the text while I was on with Al, and maybe I showed it while I was on the other stream.
No,
Maybe
you
I'll
didn't
show you
show
right now. It says, hold on, will it show up? It might not show up.
a little bit,
It
yeah.
say tell Al goodbye.
Yeah.
Hey man, he was going hard in the paint on protectors. People kept asking these, the quarterback is causing protection issues. Like, what are y'all talking about? So Al was going over that, and then he was going over. People was talking about they didn't slide the protection right, and Donovan Dickens said, "What? What are you talking about? This is a sort." He had to explain what a sort was, and I mean, like graduate level stuff. But it's offense, Vance. It's offense. But when you get to the defense, now you're a diehard, and you've been talking about formation to the boundary, right?
Yep.
It's something that confounds teams all over the place, and it is giving Michigan problems at times. And you gave a great description as to why. Can you talk us through why, from a defensive perspective, formation to the boundary is something that can give offenses or defenses problems?
Most teams across the country in college, they play field defense. And what that means is that your nickel back and your strong safety goes to the field. Your Mike travels with the nickel back. The will linebacker goes to the boundary. So he travels with the safety. So everything's about count. And so what people like to do, if you put formation to the boundary, in other words, put fast guys into the boundary, a lot of times if you're playing some form of too high, a linebacker now has to walk out on that guy. And that means that nickel back is to the field. If it's 11 personnel, 3 receivers, a tight end, 1 back, he has to walk up either in a 9 technique in a box. So it makes them stronger offensively to run the ball at him. In the pass game, you have fast guys on the linebacker. So Michigan does a variety of things to take things away. So we would do zone, we do some man, so we keep people confused. But what I saw from Jesse and the defensive staff in this ball game, his first 2 calls was nickel Sam. And the first offensive play was formation to the boundary. So I know everybody be laughing, say, Vance, we're talking about can you play for me, but really it's that simple. The cornerback lines on number 1. The curl flat dropper lines on number 2. The hook curl dropper lines on number 3. The next backer, who is a hook curl the other way, he lines up on number 2. If there's no number 2, he finds number 2 on the other side, either in the backfield. In this game, they're in quads. That's where his number 2 is. Mm-hmm. So football is about count. If you align on your coverage responsibility, you will be right 95% of the time.
So let's try to give it an elementary explanation. Did he or did they make it easier with the call for players to keep the count, or did the players through experience and through making mistakes just get better naturally at keeping the count? What would you say based on what you've seen?
It's a combination of both. I mean, again, one of our base calls this year has been nickel Sam. In other words, we bring the nickel off the edge, angle the front back to the boundary. So the defensive end to the boundary, he knows he's a curl flat dropper. So if there's a number 2 out there, guess what he does? I just go out there and cover. And then if there's a number 3 out there, if I'm the back to that side, guess what I do? I go out there and cover. So that's the base adjustment. Next call, second call of the game was cover 2. And again, it's about matchup. So the corner was a cloud guy. The nickel back is blitzing. The backside safety, guess what? He's a curl dropper. He goes to number 2. The next backer, he goes to 3 strong, wherever he is, so on and so forth. It's just about count. So those are base calls that we run quite a bit in every ball game. So those guys can probably do that in their sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, definitely. I think the perception was that, man, we're looking a little loose in the secondary. Did you feel like some of the things that we saw was more just, hey, you tip your cap to Indiana for having good scheme and coming at you with some things that you are hard to be prepared for? Or did you see like, okay, guys, there's still some things we need to tighten up here? Did you see some examples of that?
I think they had a good scheme. I really do. There's some things we still got to continue to clean up on. But I think their scheme-wise, they went to attack what we did. They really did, to attack our zone pressures, to attack our zone coverages. They did a good job because anytime you put formation to the boundary, that means the corner to the field is isolated. I mean, they oversplit us sometimes to get the isolation routes. They cut splits down to do deep over routes. So some indicators, if your secondary out there is not aware of what people are doing, what they're doing, it can cause some problems. And as the game went on, our guys kind of figured it out. Game over with just that fast. Mm-hmm. But initially, for not the first series, but the second series, we had some little minor nickel and diamonds. That's okay. And they came with the flea flicker. That's okay. Things that happen. And people look at the film study. We covered that particular play in detail. And if guys could just count, it wouldn't have been a problem. Mm-hmm. the guys didn't count like they should. I always tell people this, Sam. If I'm a deep half safety, you always have a number 2. So let's say we're in a 3-by-1 formation with the back in the backfield. I come from number 1 on my side. The next guy on the line of scrimmage, if he's to the other side, that's my number 2. He just far away from me. So it's 4 guys to that side. If I'm a half field guy, guess what my number 2 is? He's to the quad side as number 4, but he's still my number 2. So I learned that the hard way. When you just play your side, you can get in trouble. Understand, half field goes right down the middle of the field. So if somebody from the other side goes to the middle of the field, guess who's responsible for it? The backside safety. And on a flea flicker, the safety overplayed a single guy. Mm-hmm. The linebacker, they couldn't count to 2 or 4. So he was wrong no matter what he did on that play. So, I mean, come on now. Like I keep saying, when I was a young guy, I played chess and Chinese checkers. I play 100% American checkers right now. So, hey, get my checkers lined up, baby. As you get old, some of them brain cells done died away. Man, I'm checkers all the way. Chess, I'm past that.
Well, folks, you can start getting your questions in the chat for Vance, and we will line them up towards the end. You've highlighted some things today that as we now tilt towards the second half of the season, I'm gonna get you to talk about your experience in Michigan State coming up. But as we tilt toward the second half of the season, there are some things that have developed as far as the identity of this defense. Your impressions of Jesse Minery and his staff. We kind of heard a little bit about that already. But I'm curious if you had to highlight the strengths of this defense at this point, before they start playing Penn State and Ohio State and Maryland, what would you say the strengths are? Strengths personnel-wise, strengths coaching-wise, and then where do you, now that they've shown some improvement with formation to the boundary, where would you say, okay, now this is where I feel like the emphasis needs to be as far as tightening up is concerned?
I'm going to go to coverage. I'm going to go to coverage on some of the deep throws where people go max protection. Understand why people align how they align. If I'm a corner, if I get an oversplit, okay, and we in the film study we talked about this on the double move. The ball was on the hash. This guy lines the top of the numbers. I mean, just to throw it out there is 30 yards. Because now if he's going down the field, every time you go out on the field, you need to have 5 yards too. So I used to tell my secondary guys, they get a split like that, don't overpress that. Why are you going to press that, put yourself in harm's way? He either got to come inside or go vertical. They're not going to run no hits. He gets beat on a double move, on a hitch and go, on an oversplit, things like that. Then you come back, cut splits. What kind of plays do they get from cut splits? And what should we do? So I'm talking coverage right now for the back seven, okay? Understand concepts, okay? Think like an offensive guy. When they get these kind of splits here, you're getting cut split, I'm getting deep over routes, okay? If I get wider splits, I'm getting isolation routes. What am I getting to attack what we're trying to get done? Mm-hmm. So I think we still need to grow in that area. But when I look at scheme-wise, we do a great job of attacking protections. The different twists, the different fronts. We're in multiple fronts. We're in Bear, has 0, 2 3s, 2 wide guys. Okay, we're in Okie. We got a 0. We got 2 wide 5s, and the backers walk up. Then we get in even. We got 2 3s. We got 2 wide guys. I mean, the backers walk up. Then we get in low. So if I'm an offensive coordinator preparing for Michigan, I don't want to be in third and long because I don't know what front I'm going to see. You really don't. And off of each front, they got a certain blitzes that they carry to every single ball game. And it makes it difficult for guys to protect against that. You want to be in 3rd and 3 against Michigan. 3rd and 7 plus, I mean, that defensive staff, now they coming with something. And they getting sacks and pressure, and you're getting a lot of incomplete passes because of that. But again, I'm going to go back to the back end. We need to make sure we tighten things up. Don't let the ball be thrown over our head. If they don't throw it over our head, we're in great shape because I'm still going to go to FSL. Number 18 from Ohio State is going to be to the field for isolation route. And if you're running quarters like we do sometimes, we got both of them safeties tucked inside the hash mark like we do. And I got Marvin out there one-on-one with my corner. Guess where the ball is going to be thrown? That's how the NFL is. It's about personnel. It's about matchups. I'm going to say, my guy first-round pick, your guy isn't. First-round pick, go win. So you got to be careful about those situations moving forward.
Yeah, some really, really good stuff, for sure. And then some examples. So you talked about from a player perspective, guys, kind of being more experienced, being able to count to three and sometimes four. You have talked about earlier in the season. Listen, my line guys, my edge droppers, my interior linemen, dropping into some of my zone pressures. Like, what does that look like? You know, in the past, in some of the game, I think Nebraska kind of sticks out, where you had a guy overdropping, right,
Several times.
several times, right, and you said you gotta kind of know what the concepts are, right, and so we saw in this game, Vance, exactly what you were talking about. By the biggest fella on the defensive line, it wasn't just that Kenneth Grant almost got the interception. It was what led to it, and you picked it out in the film study.
Man, my daddy and my father was with me this weekend, so we watching the game, and they ran it back and forth. Man, he took a step. He actually looked up the receiver to see where he was, and stayed in the window. I also saw the defensive ends do the same thing a couple of times. Take a look outside to see the splitter guys. So I hate to say this, but I think somebody been listening to what we've been talking about. Because all of a sudden, some things that I hadn't seen, now we see it. So, Sam, they should be putting some money in that till too. hey, hit that button and add to it.
This is a fun film study. But here's how I take it. I mean, you're a ball coach, Vance. You see this stuff. And they ball coaches too. So they see it. And they up in there working it, working it, working it. And once you make a mistake, you said something a little bit earlier. You said, hey man, I made that mistake of touching the stove one time. And guess what I didn't do again? Right? I didn't make that mistake of touching the stove again. So I think there's some of that going on for sure.
It is, but sometimes when you get into a season, and I was a coach for a long time, and sometimes you kind of miss some things. You're trying to get the overall picture, and sometimes the details of it slips away sometimes because you're looking for some other things. And I made this point last week too. For defensive end, who's technically a down guy, you're asking him to drop like a linebacker. It's not easy to teach. So therefore, you got to find out, how can I help him? And that takes a lot of work, because a lot of schemes I've been in, we draft the defensive ends a lot. And we spend a lot of time in 7-on-7 to teach them how to. We have to work on it every single day. If you go 1 week and don't work on it, it's like you never worked on it the next week. They're going to forget about it. So you got to continue to do that so they can continue to grow and get better at it. But now, this ball game, I saw that across the board, from the defensive end to the D-line, taking a peek. It's great to see those things work.
Yeah, I be sure you watch the film study. That wasn't just a good play by Kenneth Grant. That was a great play.
Yes, it
That
was.
was a great play. Like, that's a dude who's just not relying on his physical talent. I mean, physical talent is a lot. For him to be that big and to be able to move like that, yeah, that's God given. But like you said, I mean, the man drops back, looks up the receiver, sees the slant coming, stays in the window, Vance, and almost picks it off.
I tell you, my daddy, like I said, he's 91 years old. He was an old ball coach. And he made the comment and said, man, Michigan's D-line, they got great feet. So just watch them. They're never on the ground. They're always moving. So a lot of big guys can't do that. They're big, but they don't have the feet to move that way. I mean, it's just impressive when you look at those kind of things. Like my dad, 91 years old, I wear glasses and he don't. That tell you, he in better shape than me. I mean, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, and so then as you get deeper into the mix, you're looking around at some of these other teams, and we'll get to your questions coming up. I see them lining up in the chat for Vance Bedford. Keep them going. And you look at some of these other teams, Vance, and they struggle with teams that you wouldn't expect them to struggle with, right? It's it's not always because they are overrated or overlooking a team. Sometimes I think it's like a Michigan, where in the first quarter they're a team that's really giving you some challenging things to look at. But what separates Michigan is, Vance, now, yeah, the teams might challenge them for a quarter, maybe even a half, but then they pull away. They put them down. Some of these other squads, It's not like that. They it seems like they getting a little bit of a tussle. And I'm curious now that you've seen more seasons and seen more of these other teams. Are you ready to say Michigan #1 team in the country? Or they still have some work to do to get there.
Still got some work to do. Still have some work to do. I'm not ready to make that commitment yet. This is one thing, and I've said this in the past. When Michigan played Indiana, it wasn't about Indiana. It's about Michigan. It's about playing 60 minutes and finish the ball game. When I watch other people play, they playing against that opponent, and now they got to worry about the clock. Michigan is playing against Michigan every single quarter, and that's why they've been blowing people out. It's not. I'm not going to lower my talent level to what I have to play against. I'm going to play up to my ability for 60 minutes, and because of that, it's 52-7. Other people, they kind of lower their standards because they're competing against that opponent, and all of a sudden it's 35-30, and they're wondering what happened. And that comes from coaching. That comes from leadership within the team. We're not worried about that. Let's do what we're supposed to do, give 100% effort every single snap, and then at the end of the game, let's look and see what the score was. They don't worry about the score during the game. We're going to give you everything we got, every single play, and at the end of the game, the final score should be 52-7.
All right, folks. Let's go ahead and start getting to the questions for Coach. Well, no. Before we do that, no. I got to get your recollection of your time at Michigan facing Michigan State, Vance. What can you tell us about this rivalry? What was your experience like taking on the Spartans?
Man, my first year, we lost that game, and I'm still sick. It was 1995. And they had some players. The quarterback was a second-round pick, a couple of really good receivers. We're in a 2-minute drill. And Woodson was a freshman. And he broke on a ball, hit him right in the hands, and he dropped it. And we ended up losing that game. And so I go in there. Most of the guys are already on the bus, or Wood is still in the shower. So I'm going to say, we got to go get dressed. And he had them braids in his head. You know? Yeah. So that's a story in itself. And he taking them braids out one of the times. Man, you got to go. He looked at me and said, Coach, that would never, ever happen again. Which the rest is history. He's in the Hall of Fame, all that kind of stuff. But after that, man, we beat the brakes off of Michigan State just because. I mean, we did in 97, their first score came off a gadget play. I'm in the press box yelling, time out. You know, they had a timeout, and they wouldn't a field goal deal and left a receiver on the sideline. And we were kind of just going through the motions. We were sleeping. After that, man, we must have beat them just because they shouldn't even cross the street. It's like they woke up to sleeping giants. So my time going against Michigan State, it wasn't much of a game. That first game was after that, we beat them pretty handily. And like I told you on the previous thing, this year, I'm talking about this year, it's not like little brother. Little brother hadn't been born yet down there. It's not little brother. He hadn't even been born yet. They don't even have a little sporty there. So we playing against a baby hadn't been born yet. So we good. I'm looking, hey, I'm gonna go on them. I'm gonna say 52-6. I don't give them 2 field goals. 52-6.
So, all right, I'm hoping. Yeah, why not score?
I already know.
So, a couple things, man. I remember that 95 game. That was my freshman year at University of Michigan. I remember Charles having the old dog braids. You folks remember Business Society? He had those old dog braids back in the day. I was like, oh, man, this dude, how come if he walk into an African-American studies class? I was asking my man, Dre Weathers. I'm like, who is that? He was like, man, that's his freshman name, Charles Wilson. I said, that dude is a freshman? Where is he from? They said Fremont, Ohio. Vance, I thought Fremont was like little Cleveland. Like, oh man, they must be hard.
I wasn't going to tell a story. So we get there. I get there in 95 with Wilson. He got them old braids in there. So Coach Carr comes to me and says, Vance, what do you think we should do? I said, what do you mean, Coach? So we asked him to take the braids out. Understand, you're from Michigan. Everybody can clean, cut the whole bag of tricks. I said, well, Coach, just let it ride. Leave it alone. That's what I said to him. I said, hey, as long as he not hurt nobody, I mean, just let him go. And he took him out himself after that game. And that was it. So, he grew up. That's part of growing up. That's part of, maturing. And that's what he did.
Yeah, man. He was I went to Fremont. It was farm country, Vance.
And nothing out there, man. I tell him all the time. He's from nowhere. I think he might have been playing in Cleveland and just stayed with Fremont. I think the man told me a story, man. Anybody out there?
Hey, he was cold. Yeah, obviously Hall of Famer, right? Lloyd tells the story all the time. He said, I knew he was a ball player. He was out there, busting up a mighty tumor on the ground.
Oh, hey, man, I tell you, that first year I got, let me see, Dadrian Taylor comes in that year. We got about 4 freshman DBs. Okay, you got Mercury Hayes, Amani Toomer, and they fighting every day. I mean, I'm saying it wasn't just him. And because I had some older guys, and they gave a lot of respect to Amani Toomer, Mercury. Amani was like a hot-headed little bully. So he kind of had the guys kind of gun side. With them freshmen I had 4 freshmen that year. But them guys fighting every day. I said about some man, he ain't taking out nobody. They crossed the line of scrimmage, man. It's like we all like poke bone. Let's get it going. And we had a blast. I mean, and that's when I knew I had some dogs in the house. I mean, so and some of the other guys who were younger at the time, anyway, this goes different. I said, yeah, we ain't taking it off nobody. They crossed the line of scrimmage. You trying to break a mama's house? You're gonna leave limping. I mean, and that's what we did.
Well, that 95 game, I was working up to that 95 Michigan State game. I remember that, man. They had a it was like a 4th and 10 or 11 to Derek Mason. He didn't get it, Vance. He did not get that first down. I'm like, what the hell? Why is it whenever you play at Michigan State, when they have some talent? Because they had some dudes.
They had some dudes.
They had Tony Banks at quarterback. They had Derek
Muhammad,
Mason,
Musa Muhammad.
Yeah, they had some dudes now.
They had first and second round picks, and we still won that ball game.
Yeah, but they gave him that one. They gave him at least that play. He did not get that first down. To this day, I will tell you that. So, anyway, I digress. Strange things can happen in East Lansing when they have dudes. The problem is right now, Vance, they don't have dudes. They don't have kids. They don't have nobody.
They don't even have coaches.
They don't have anybody else.
What are they playing for? Well, I look at one thing. How many players of Michigan State from the state of Michigan who understand the rivalry? They from out of state, they don't understand the rivalry. The coaching staff is in disarray. You can sit back and say what you want to say, but they're having issues all over the place from top to bottom. Even the janitors don't show up on time. So what are we talking about? They're not even cleaning the place up, man. The janitors late. They're like, head coach not here. I'm not going to be here either. It's all good. It's going to be a whipping. That's all I got to tell you.
Tobias said, was that worse than JT being shot? No. Because if that call is made right, Tobias, Michigan is going to playoff. Michigan in '95. That wasn't the first loss in '95, was it?
No, we went 8-4 that year. It's just we had lost to Northwestern that year.
Yeah.
So you had, Lloyd was an interim head coach there, so there was a lot of things going on in that particular year, and we ended up playing quite a few young guys that year.
Yes, sir. All right, let's go ahead and get to the questions, folks. If you have questions for Vance Bedford, put them in the chat. I will get to as many of them as possible. Jay Will Succeed has the first question, Vance, and he wants to know, Vance, Harbaugh praised Junior Colson this last game. How did the linebackers do from your perspective? He said, talking about Junior, I think he plays hesitant and late. Would you say that about number 25?
No.
What do you think about
No. Those guys did a great job. They were aggressive. They were fitting where they're supposed to fit. Again, I'm going to go back to this. The other team have people on scholarships too. They're going to nickel and dime you. But at the end of the day, we have great pursuit, great effort, guys in the gaps. If I go back to the last year, some of the things that happened in this ball game, they'd have been big run plays. Those plays have not shown up at all this year. So the things I'm seeing right now, the execution of fits by the linebackers, even their pass drops, they are vastly improved compared to a year ago. So no, I don't agree with that at all.
I don't know, man. Who were the 2 freshman D-backs in addition to Woodson and Taylor? James Whitley and William Peterson.
Now they came in '97. 2 of the guys, Brent Washington was one of the guys, and the other guy we had ended up going to offense. I can't think his name right now, but we had 4 freshmen at that particular year, and they all, like I say, they were fighting every day in practice. And I was 100% behind him.
Oh, yeah,
I let him start fighting, and I jump in the pile. Man. Yeah, slip my punch in there too. Don't hit my boys that way.
yeah, I remember those two freshmen that came in '97 and played. Both of them played a lot.
I had three because Dwayne Patman too.
Yeah, man, and Whitley, if I remember, Whitley was like the number
He was 1, 2, or 3 corners in the league. And coming out that year, and William Peterson had been in our camp 2 years in a row. And William was bigger and faster. Everybody compared Whitley to Woodson. I said, that's a bad mistake. See, I don't compare players to another player. So you don't do that because you're putting a limitation on what they can do. And all of a sudden, the expectation by everybody else, well, he's supposed to be like Woodson. No, he's supposed to be like James Whitley. And that's how I look at that. So both of those guys played a lot. Dwayne Patman played a lot. And all three of those guys played in the NFL.
Yes, they did. All right. Let's move on to the next question, Vance. Hey, Vance, I know that you like aggressive D. He said, I do too at certain points, but I think Michigan's approach is
Too loose. Talking about their alignment.
okay. Too loose coverage is smart. I think it's Belichick's approach. He's banking on quarterbacks that can't be perfect. What say you?
I don't know if they necessarily loose. Every once in a while I might point out some things here and there. I mean, as players feel more comfortable and understand what's happening to them, they have a tendency to break on the ball quicker. Okay, when they don't, then they'll hang back and play safe. And when you talk about Belichick don't play it safe now. He's aggressive. He'll call cover 6, which is quarter, half. Within the cover 6, there are 10 different coverages based off of formation. It could turn into straight out man-to-man. It could turn into quarters. I mean, you got to think about the years Belichick's been there. He's had a bunch of all-pro and Pro Bowl corners going all the way back to Ty Law. I mean, so Belichick don't play it safe. Right now, they're just bad in New England. That's a whole different story in itself.
All right. Here's one from Newber. He says, seems like Keon Sate, number 3, was in the mix on the TDs, giving up back-to-back weeks. Is that due to lack of experience? This is his first.
No. I can't go with that one either. I mean, I see your point, but he wasn't the only one involved in the flea flicker. I mean, again, that's playing with vision. I don't think we've seen quads. That's 4 guys from one side this year. And to get that play stopped, those guys had to communicate. And what I did not see, and we've done a great job all year long of communicating what's going on. I saw no one make any type of communication about that guy. When they motion 4 strong, I didn't see the backside safety. I didn't see the corner, the front side safety. I didn't see the nickel back. Nobody said anything. Nobody pointed. It's like he motioned and nobody saw it. So that was on the backer. That was on the safety. That was on the corner. It was on 3 different guys. And the backside safety stood up late in the video. It was on him too. So all those guys, in my opinion, were wrong in that particular play.
I got you. All right, Vance. Let's keep on going. It says this one from Kobe Nichols. Vance, have you ever seen a defense hold a team to an average of just over 7 points per game through 7 games?
No. You got to go back to Alabama about 8 years ago. They were holding people somewhere around 9 to 10. Same thing for Georgia. But what we're doing right now, it's unheard of. It really is. And I'll be honest with you now. And you know how I am. The teams we play, they're not very good. We should be doing what we're doing. If they were averaging 21 to 24 points a game, I would be concerned about going into Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State. But because we hold them to 7 points or less, I'm not concerned. I think physically we're going to dominate some people when we get to play in those games. The game's going to be closer because it's better personnel. But at the end of the day, physically, I like the direction we're going in right now.
Yeah, all right. Let's keep on going. Vance, what are your thoughts on the corner transfer from Massachusetts, Josh Wallace, number 12, out there? Someone asked this question a couple weeks ago.
I think he's inconsistent. Just my observation. And I wish I had game video instead of television copy where I can just sit down and watch him break him down. But he's inconsistent from watching it on television. He makes some good plays. He missed some plays. Sometimes he plays too deep. Sometimes he doesn't look very sure. And when he walks up and he tries to press, he makes me real nervous. I rather see him off technique. I think when he walks up and press, unless he cleans some things up, people can take advantage of him right now.
All right. Man, somebody's paying attention. Nala, we kind of touched on this a little bit. Question: we have been having issues with FSL formation to and from the boundary, like you explained. As coaches, players are listening. What's your coaching point on how to fix the issue? You kind of touched on this a little bit. Said that they have implemented some things, but how, when you were a coordinator, did you address this, which seems to be a common issue?
I think we saw that in this ball game. They did a great job adjusting. I mean, we are a zone football team. Let's be honest. We're a zone football team. Most of our zone pressure is zone. You see man on third down. Otherwise than that, a lot of man it doesn't show up. So when you're in zone, you just count. But understand, formation and boundary means you got two fast receivers to the boundary and one fast receiver and a tight end to the field. So a lot of times, if you're a zone football team, that puts a linebacker technically on a receiver, but you're playing zone football. So all he has to do is collision the guy and hold his area. But what I haven't seen when they go formation to the boundary is people actually throwing the ball into the boundary. If you go back to last year, we had a couple of teams actually hurt us by throwing the ball into the boundary. People are lining up FSL and throw it to the field. They line up in the FSL, running naked back to the field. So far, it hadn't been an issue this year as it was last year and the year before last. But again, when you're playing zone football, you just make an adjustment. The backers bump over. The weakness of it is when you do it that way, you walk back out, it's a good chance your nickel back now is going to be in the box. So if I'm going to run the football, guess where I'm going to run the football at? Back at him to see can he hold up. But that's why we move a lot with Nichols Sam and Nickel Lightning to protect him. So it hadn't been a problem this year. We've gotten better. Our adjustments have gotten better. So far this year, we've handled that pretty good.
All right, let's go ahead and get back to the questions with Vance. All right, this next one, this was a follow-up from Nala. And Vance, how do we game plan against Penn State and Ohio State if we have to play them next week?
How do we game plan? I've seen Ohio State. I haven't seen enough of Penn State, to be honest. But Ohio State, what he's doing right now with his Sam, with his lightning, moving in front with different twists, the blitzes he has, dropping two, I think the majority of the game plan is already in. And on third down, it's off the charts what we're doing. The only thing I might do a little bit different, because unless I'm getting a lot of screens from the back, we've been running some zero pressures. I'm going to run a zero pressure, but I'm going to double him 18. I'm going to take him out the mix. I'm not going to let that guy beat me. I'll make some other people have to beat me. And that's the thing about it. And the biggest thing is this quarterback is not as good as C.J. Stroud. They're trying to be more physical by running the football, but our defensive line and linebackers, I think, can hold up versus what they're doing. Our thing is, can we take it? I've been on the secondary. Everybody know I've been talking about them. I have some concerns. We got to find a way to make sure that we take things away. When you run quarter, half, we can roll to the field, roll to the boundary. Well, I'm going to roll over them 18. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to let him beat me. I don't make the other guy was pretty good too. I want to see if I can make him beat me and make Ohio State have to make an adjustment during the game to find ways to get the other guy the ball.
Mm-hmm. So 2 things that stick out to me about those squads. Both of them have problems on their offensive line. And you said Michigan has done a great job. You mentioned one of their strengths is attacking protection. They have guys that can beat you one-on-one, but, man, they got games that they run on teams that free guys up, Vance, and we see that seem like on a weekly basis.
We do. The thing about it, those schemes show up more on third down. First and second down, they don't show up nearby as much because now you got to be careful about doing some of those things because if it's second down and they block it, it could be a huge hole somewhere. But on third down, it shows up a lot. Second and long, passing situation, it shows up a lot. But first and second down run, your base calls have been Nickel Sam, Nickel Lightning have been the base calls so far. Or you playing some kind of base and just moving or twisting the front and side.
It feels like, number 18, they're not going to put themselves in a position too often to have that dude be, or let's say he has some success. Like old boy that's at Florida State right now. That was at Michigan State last year. Talking about Michigan State. Remember the first half of that game, old boy was having himself a he was getting off. And Michigan had you got DJ Turner out there who's in the league, second round pick, right? They're like, hey, we got to do something to this side. You remember you said They went cloud
Yeah.
this side and said, say somebody else beat me, and Michigan State didn't have nobody else that could beat them.
Yeah.
Right. So
Ohio State does. So.
and so the question is, will Michigan get put in that position? The other thing that I wonder about is I don't know if they run this, but you gave a dissertation on the split stretch
Mm-hmm.
with Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
And I know that Ohio State, that was one of the plays that they really were trying to. I don't know if they were running a split stretch, but they were running a stretch, and they were with what's his name, Trevion Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels like if they watch that tape, that might be something that they try to bring to the table against the Wolverines.
It should, but I don't think it'll work versus us. I think we learned a lot of things in that particular ball game. I really do. The biggest thing off of the split stretch is the naked off of the boot, and that's the biggest thing about it. And so I think that when you teach your linebackers, anytime we're in any kind of zone, and you either got a cloud guy backside or we got cover 3 backside or cover 5 dropper, on that particular play, you downhill, you run. I mean, in that ball game, he kept falling back, so the gap inside was huge. And the next thing is, even though we were playing 2 techniques and we were moving those guys, I'm not doing that versus these guys. I'm gonna put that guy in a 2-hour shade. I'm going, hey, this is your gap, take it away right now. So now that helps to eliminate it, where all of a sudden that guy's not getting. He got cut off so many times in that game, it wasn't funny. Mm-hmm. So I think there's ways you can clean it up to take that play away, which I think we'll see that going against Ohio State.
And that's one of the things that you highlight about this staff every week. They adjust. They adjust.
Yes. We get better and better. Like I say, Sam, they listening to us, Sam. They listening. They hear what people talking about. Hey. You see Sam and Vance talking about this play? Yeah, they listening. They sit back and say they're not listening. Oh, yeah. They checking out.
No. Jim said they listen. He said they listen. You know, he was on the Big Ten Network, said he checks it out. So, you know, but anyway, here's one. Michigan's defensive staff has been brilliant. I wonder who takes over for Mentor when he leaves, when he becomes a pro DC, or a head coach. Like, he was up for some head coaching jobs last year, and Jim said last summer that he felt like he has 4 guys who are going to be head coaches next year, and Jesse Minter is clearly one of them. One of the guys who comes to mind for me is a guy who my man Ira Weintraub turned me on to at WTKA, because he's with UCLA right now. He was with the Ravens. Anthony Lynn's son.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, who comes up in that Raven system and actually has UCLA playing some defense.
They playing better. You're right.
Yeah, they playing better. I watched them against Oregon State. They didn't lose that game because the defense just was terrible. I mean, Dante Moore, young freshman. I think that game was too much too soon for the Heat. Some turnovers in there.
Yeah,
it was just a tough game.
You are a defensive team playing an offensive up tempo. That hurts your defense. Mm-hmm. And you're going fast as they go sometimes. They could be 3 plays out in 58 seconds. So your defensive players, you can't make any corrections, no adjustments. They never get a break. Either they scoring real fast, or they might have 5 series where they 3 plays and out in less than a minute. So that affects how you play defense. That's what's great about what Michigan does. They eat some clock away. So you got a time to catch your breath, to make corrections on the sideline. If you feel like they're doing certain things to you, get the defense up, we're going to go to this, make this adjustment here. That's what we're seeing. When you're playing on the same team with up-tempo, they're going fast, that doesn't happen. I've been in that situation a couple of times. You don't have time to make corrections. Because as soon as you sit down and get some water, take your helmet off, they're hollering for special teams right now.
Yeah. I went there because, Jim, he what he typically does is he looks around, but is there someone who he has ties to? And he would have ties to that dude. So I'll be watching UCLA's defense to see if it continues to trend well. But I think the first look will be internal. I think the first look will be at Clean.
It should be.
Yeah.
It should be. First look to always be inside if a guy can do it. And then the next thing is Jesse was tied to the Ravens. Mike was tied to the Ravens. Now this guy here, he's tied to the Ravens. The scheme will be pretty much the same. The terminology has a good chance of being the same. So you can still on the same thing. But, Jesse Minter reminds me a lot of Brent Venables when he was at Clemson. I mean, he had about 6 years where their defense was absolutely outstanding. He turned down several head jobs until he got the job he always wanted was Oklahoma, and look what they're doing this year. I mean, a year ago, people say, "Oh, he can't coach defense. He's a typical Big 12 guy." Here's a guy who got a couple of national championship rings. You got players, you make adjustments, you eventually get better. That's what he's done. So Jesse, from that standpoint, to me, is following the same suit as Brent did. Great success, great numbers on defense, winning games. So he's going along that line, having a chance to be a head football coach.
Yeah, Antoine Johnson's on. He said, I think Klink would take over for DC at Michigan. I bet he's already a co-defensive coordinator. I'm guessing he's studying under Jesse. I think he'd be the first look.
They should be.
Yeah. He's been a coordinator before. He obviously will know the scheme now. He was here with Mike through Jesse. I think he'd be the first look.
Well, you look what Jim did. Look at offense, though. What did he do? Okay, one guy leaves, he elevates Sharon more than another guy on the staff up to be co-coordinators, not Sharon's his coordinator. So he likes guys from inside. If he feels comfortable with them, they understand what he wants from his coordinators. So it's a good chance he's going to hire from within if he thinks the guy's ready to do it.
All right. Grant Side Smoking Grill said, Vance, you be right on the money. Come back to Ann Arbor as an analyst or something. Go blue. Hey, Vance, every week someone wants to know, okay, can they hire you, Vance? Can you be a paid consultant or something?
As long as I sit in my dining room on game day, that's good. I mean, like I said, my friend Clint Hurd offered me a job the same way to be an analyst, and I'm like, I just can't make that move. Can't make that move. On game day, I'm sitting in my recliner laughing and throwing my football when people do some bad things.
Let's go back to Nala, who always has great questions for you, Vance. Said, Vance, what do you think of our young safety, Keon Sate, number 3, who you talked about on that play? He said, obviously, he forgot to count 3. Actually, it was 4 on that trick play. But he came back and got a nice interception afterwards. What's your overall thoughts on him as a player?
Improvement from the first game of the year until now, because he's playing quite a bit. I mean, that interception that he had, that was a nice play. He's a half-field guy. He tracked the ball. He's on top of the receiver. Did everything right. On the touchdown pass, the flea flicker, the double pass. And again, they hadn't seen that. They motioned to 4. And I don't know what's been told to the safety in the corner versus quads when you're playing quarters. I always say we're going to zone this across the board. You got to see everything. Well, I don't know what's being said. So to criticize a kid for that particular play, I don't know what's being coached and what it is, but he should have saw that guy motion along with the linebacker and along with the corner. So to me, 3 guys should have been involved in that play. So 3 guys were wrong. He wasn't wrong by himself. 3 other guys were wrong also.
Yeah, here's one that kind of goes to the other side of the ball. Do you think JJ will stay another year? I think the odds are against it, but I'll tell you this. I don't think the odds are 0. I do not. I think it's on the table. I think it's on the table, man.
If somebody tell him he is a definite top 10 pick, he's leaving. If it's, well, you right there on the cuff, then he's going to stay. That's going to be the key. When he sends out the letter to see where he fits, he needs to know, hey, I'm a top 10 pick, and trying to find out what teams are saying that, because teams looking for quarterbacks. The problem is now there's a lot of quarterbacks coming out. He won't be by himself. You got the guy at USC, the guy at North Carolina, the guy at Washington, and you got to say, where does he fit? Does his style of play work in the National Football League? That's what people are going to look at. I mean, but right now, the 2 top quarterbacks from NFL standards is a guy at USC and the guy at Washington lit up Oregon this past week. And that's how guys, and the guy at North Carolina. Right now, those are the 2, 1, 2, and 3. So JJ is probably sitting 4 right now. You look at those guys from an NFL perspective.
Yeah, he's gonna move it. He plays against Penn State and Ohio State.
That makes a difference.
Right. So he's all of a sudden starting to get some Heisman mention. He's gonna have his Heisman opportunity in those games. Go back to the questions. Kevin Bull wants to know, with the loss of Hutchinson and Ajabo a couple years ago now, we've lost a step on QB pressure. Who can step up? Feels like they're better getting to the quarterback than they were last year.
They are. See, people are looking at individual guys making individual plays. This year, we're doing it as a collective group. Several guys are doing it. You don't have that so-called first-round pick like Hutchinson. If a Ajabo don't hurt his knee, he's going to probably be in a top 15 pick. Okay, so we don't have, say, two individuals like that. As an overall group, though, we're better. The productivity is better. People look at quarterback sacks. I look at quarterback pressure. And what that means is the quarterback does not have time to sit in that pocket and throw a great ball. He's under duress. So he throws them high, he throws them long, he throws them short. And that's just as good as a sack sometimes. And that's what you got to understand. And that's part of it too. So the pressures are as important as sacks.
Here's one for you, Vance, going back to your time as a coordinator and kind of looking at what you see from Jesse. Stan says, Vance, how difficult is it for mentor to make adjustments during the drive while the opposing offense is moving the ball? Seems like it takes Michigan a few drives or quarters to make corrections. Do you think that's accurate? Or were you able to make adjustments within a drive versus from drive to drive or quarter to quarter or half to half?
On the first couple of drives, most offensive coordinators, they are scripting. They have a script. And then after that, they kind of fall back into what they like out of their script, and that normally is in the second quarter. And so you as a defensive coach, one of the best defensive coordinators in the National Football League who became a head coach, he used to script his defensive plays the same way. He scripted everything but third down and red zone. So let's talk about this last ball game. The first series, they were 3-0. They didn't start slow. I mean, people are going nickel and dime you. It's like a boxing match. In the first round, boxers do what? They fill each other out unless you Mike Tyson and George Foreman just go knock them out in 30 seconds. So it's a fill-out process for both sides of the ball. That's what you're seeing sometimes. So the offense has a little success. They nickel and dime you. So you go after that series, 2 series, you go on the sideline and say, this is their game plan. Now, you guys see it. Let's go match it up, lock it down. Let's go play football. So sometimes it might take 2 or 3 series for that shutdown to happen. But for the most part, we haven't been hurt. Like you said, overall, in the games we play, people are averaging just a little more than 7. So when you look at that, we have nothing to worry about, really nothing to talk about. We just need to clean things up, getting ready for the big boys, the guy that can, if you make a mistake, put points on you.
Okay. We are getting a lot more questions coming in from Vance. We still have some time, so I'll get in as many of them as I can. Here's one from Matt Itznick. Says, do you think the last 2 years of success beating Ohio State will get into this team's head, and will Michigan get complacent and not cut the head off the snake? Are you worried about that at all, Vance?
No, I think that's a joke, right? That's a joke because this year's team is totally different from last year's team. They had a lot of people graduate. This is a totally different team. You got different guys playing, more maturity. So what happened last year has absolutely nothing to do with this team this year. Offensively, I think our quarterback is better than when he was a year ago, which makes the offense better. Defensively, there's some things that makes me nervous in the secondary, but the front seven is better than the front seven was a year ago. Mm-hmm. So overall, we have a better football team. Now, when I look at Ohio State, C.J. Stroud, he scared me to death. This guy is a good football player, but he's not C.J. Stroud. But he's getting better. And they're doing things that fit his talents, which means they're trying to run the ball more, which makes them a little bit more dangerous. Last year, I used to call him, hey, finesse. The head coach, Ryan, they're a finesse guy. He wants to win pretty. Now, he's just trying to win. That makes him a dangerous football coach. Last year, I'm like, he finesse guy. He's going to give us a chance to win because he want to win pretty. Now he's just trying to win. He's become a better football coach because of the quarterback not as good as the last few quarterbacks he's had. So do we have the big heads? No, not at all. The score every week has shown that we don't have that.
Right. Steve Horn says, Vance, whenever I see a guy make a mistake in college football or the NFL, I start wondering what flavor of Gatorade he likes, how quick he can grab Vance a cup. Vance is too cold.
Oh my goodness. Well, when I was at Texas, I had some parents call upset. I should tell them that. I had a press conference. I'll tell them, hey, guy make that mistake. I just asked him one question. What kind of Gatorade do you like? I like grape. What kind do you like? So you keep doing that, you're gonna be drinking Gatorade. Right? Parents used to be upset, but it's the truth. I was always honest. I never held anything back. I was honest with guys. You know, and I don't know if people have listened to some of Deion Sanders. I listened to his coaches after they lost that ball. Okay, so the coaches were he had each position coach and coordinator stand up in front of the team and talk about the team. And I think if you're on Twitter, everybody should try to find that and listen to it because it's actually pretty good. But he should have been saying some of those things 5 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. They talked about practice hadn't been very good, the effort hadn't been very good. Okay, that's not the player's fault. That's your fault as a coach. You take care of that yourself. You don't wait till you get to a game and you lost a game and bring it up. That's after the fact. I don't like after the fact people. Let's go back and do it back then when it matters. Some of the stuff they say was really good, was truthful. And you're talking about a team that got fat, they were up 29-0, they quit playing. Okay? The University of Michigan don't play their opponent. The University of Michigan plays the University of Michigan. They finish ball games. When you start playing an opponent, you're up 29-0, you can lose because you're not finishing the game. Michigan, they play 60 minutes. When they get up, the next guy goes in, like, if I don't do it right, I'm drinking Gatorade on the sideline with just a minute. So I'm not getting out of this game. Am I supposed to be in the B gap? I'm going to be in that B gap. Am I supposed to be drop down this hash mark and look at number one? I'll drop down this hash mark and look at number one. So they finish the game.
Yeah, man. They're up 29-0, and Shedeur is selling stuff on his Instagram page at halftime on his phone in the locker room, Vance. Like, oh, you know they're gonna catch hell for that. But you're supposed to catch hell for that. I mean, I can only imagine what Vance Bedford would have said if he saw one of his players on his phone selling stuff at halftime of a game.
I've been there and done that. We took everybody's phone after that happened one time. Kid wasn't playing a lot. He put something on Twitter and it blew up. We took all their phone. Halftime, you turn your phones in. We kept them away from it because, it's a different era. You have to watch everything. I mean, everybody, just think about it. If you go into a lot of locker rooms, Sam, that guy sitting right there, they texting each other. He right there, talk to him. And that's where people are today. Instead of talking to a person one-on-one and communicating with another person, I would text the guy, okay? A guy might have just texted me. I don't want to. I call them. They don't answer the phone. If I text them, they text me back. They don't want to talk. I mean, so we got to get this age that's out there right now. Can you put down the phone and talk? Certain places I've been at, we just tell the guys, when you go in the locker room, put them phones down. You're going to talk, get off the phone, communicate with your teammates. And sometimes you have to do that, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Shedeur did that. I mean, in the beginning, go back to the coaches. They've probably been doing that for a while. They allowed that to happen. And now it's after the fact, you lose a game, and now it's blown out of proportion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Brian Block, yeah, this is D'Anton Lynn, DC at UCLA. He was DB coach at the Ravens. Yep. That's the one. That's who I was talking about. Antoine said, yeah, UCLA's defense is way better. It surprised me. So that's the reason they're playing better. Yep. Old boy Brian Kelly said, I gotta go get me some not Brian Kelly. What's my man's name out there at UCLA?
It's Kelly. I don't know his first name, but
okay. Oh yeah. At any rate, get to some more questions here real quick as we close things out with Vance Chip Kelly. Yeah. Mentioned up with Brian Kelly, who is at LSU. Going on to the next one.
So anytime you got the name Kelly, you're crazy. We're both crazy.
Vance, let's do this position by position.
Okay.
You're grading the defense. Defensive line, linebackers, secondary. Give us your midterm grades on the
A for the D line, midterm grade, A for D line, A minus for the linebackers, and a B for the secondary. Again, I'm a secondary coach, and there's things that I'm saying that makes me nervous. And again, it comes back to football. To me, it's common sense. It's not about how smart you are. It's about common sense. Common sense makes the details of the game simpler. I'm talking about splits. I'm talking about formation. I'm talking about releases. Why I'm in this particular coverage. So when you go into a game, A lot of times if I'm a corner, for example, I might have 4 routes I got to defend. His split and release going to tell me what that route is and go take that away. And to me, that's how simple a game is. They don't do everything. When you go into a game, you have to defend everything. You got to defend only a few things. And so you should know who you're going against most of the time and what they like to do. And that's not showing up for me right now for the secondary. That's why I gave him a B.
Yeah, Blank Name says, I'm not putting Penix ahead of JJ. Penix is going to be a 25-year-old NFL rookie. He is an older guy. He is in year 6 in college. I look at it a little bit different. I honestly think JJ has a better arm. It's number one. You might be surprised. I think JJ's a better athlete, number two. I think JJ runs better than Michael Penix.
He does that. He's a better athlete.
Yeah, and then the final one, and maybe most important, like I'm watching JJ on a weekly basis, and you watch him process the game.
Mm-hmm.
You watch him recognize coverages. You watch him recognize pressures. You watch him extend plays. Know when I got to run, know when I'm extending the play. And I look at Michael Penix, really good player, make no mistake. But how often is he getting the answer from the sideline, Vance?
That's the difference. JJ's in a pro style offense. The things they do, they don't. My man in Washington, it's up tempo, go fast, and check him from the sideline. He don't learn anything that way. You spread him out, find an open guy. With JJ, it's a pro style offense. You're getting boots, you're getting naked, you're getting play action pass. Things that he's going to do in the National Football League. People in the National Football League don't know these college offenses where you're going real fast. They don't do that because it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. I mean, so that's why Chip Kelly, when he was at the Eagles, it didn't work. Mm-hmm. After 3 years, he couldn't get free. He couldn't get free agents. Nobody wanted to go there because it doesn't work. So JJ's style of play is better suited for the NFL than what they're doing at Washington. It really does. I think JJ overall is a better athlete than the guy at Washington. And the guy at Washington, and you've seen JJ more than I have, he got a live arm now. Mm-hmm. His arm is live. And people look at that. But if I'm sitting back from a classroom standpoint, I take JJ. When I see it arm-wise, I'm going to take the other guy, to be honest with you right now.
Yeah, I like it. Let's put it to the test.
Yeah, but I don't know what he does will work in the National Football League because he hadn't have to process coverages yet. It spreads you out, throw it to the open guy. We're gonna go as fast as you can so you can't get lined up. And so he has a huge learning curve when he gets to the NFL. JJ gonna have a learning curve too, but it's like JJ is a senior in high school because of the offense he's in. A man in Washington is in the 5th grade because of what he does offensively. Now, he'll have to catch up real fast, but he got a live arm.
Adam, see, only time for a couple more. He's Adam Shepardson, excuse me. Says, Vance, have you ever had to prepare for prepare a defense versus a new OC during a season? I know a lot was said about that, about the uncertainty with IU's offensive game plan because they had a new OC that was out there. How big a deal was that in this game, do you think? Have you ever had to prepare for something like that?
I have, and I'd have done the same thing Jesse did. His first call, second call, and third call, he blitzed him. You went after him. So you became the aggressor to take the fight to them trying to disrupt things. And anytime you're going to get something not sure of, okay, what's your base call? Your base call is Sam and Lightning. So everybody knows what to do, no matter what you do, no matter who calling plays. Those kids knew exactly how to fit the run, where they're going to pass, and they had a 3-and-out real fast. Then you start blitzing them on third down. So no matter what's new, the players are still there. You might have a different guy calling them. They still got the same players. Know who the best players, take them out the mix. The other guys can't beat us. So no, I think you pressure like Jesse did. He went after him, made some things happen. Yeah, they're going to hit a few plays because some things that you haven't seen. Flea flicker was something you hadn't seen. But otherwise than that, at the end of the day, they're going to line up. You know what you're going to do. And get set and ready to go. I see somebody put up there, the quarterback at Washington. I think he's had 2 knee surgeries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's a system guy. They're right there with you, Coach. They on the train, Vance. They on the train. All right, so let's close things out because the questions keep coming through. We'll be here all night. Michigan State, Vance. Give me your prediction. How's it gonna go?
52-6. I'm giving them 2 field goals. Like I said before, it's not big brother, little brother. Little brother hadn't been born. That's where they are right now down there. He's not even born yet. I mean, it's like the house is burning from inside out. They don't know what's going on. Like I said before, the janitor showed up late. Hey, somebody was on the door knocking in. They didn't have keys. I mean, everybody missing right now. 52-6. I don't care where they play. It's gonna be a good old fashioned spanking. That's all it's gonna be.
Yeah, I know they say Michigan State plays their best game against Michigan, but I mean that's when they, Vance. I've never seen Michigan State be this bad. This is the worst I've seen all the years I've seen some bad Michigan State football in my life. It has never been as bad as we're watching right now. So
Right now, Sam, they are getting used to losing. As soon as they get behind, they drop their heads. So now you finna play a potent offense that can beat you a lot of different ways. You get behind early and they drop their head, it's gonna be embarrassing, real fast.
yeah, account 22 said would love a 60 burger. I mentioned that this morning. I had to have Ira check. It's like when it has Michigan ever scored 60 on Michigan State? And he went back in the archive and found out that 101 years ago, back in 1922, they scored, I think it was 62 points.
8-man football.
So, so it seems fitting, a little over 100 years later, that Michigan goes and puts 60 on them again. Because I tell you one thing, there will be no taking the foot off the gas pedal, Vance. There will be no not run. We aren't gonna run up the score. No. Not after last year. They're gonna keep coming. They're gonna keep scoring. They're gonna score as much as they can score against Michigan State.
I'm gonna tell you this: Michigan State's gonna blitz us every which way but loose. They're going to blitz our offense every which way but loose and try to make some things happen. If they sit back and play base defense, they're gonna get killed. They're gonna come after us with corner blitzes, linebacker blitzes, safety blitzes. They're gonna come after
All right, folks. Ryan Toes, you made it in the right, hey, man. Hey, man. See, I gotta. You know me. I was in the deal the other week. Ryan Toes was like, "Hey, man, why Sam keep talking about duo plays? Now Sam don't duo. All he talk about is duo. Man, they ran 15 duos in the game. That's why I said, Rod, what's the problem, Rod? What we talking about here? You know, they bringing out new duos every week. They had a duo, a counter duo, X lead last week. They ran a duo bluff last week. I mean, we can talk duos every week. So then, all right, so we got past that. So I'm like, okay, Rod, we're gonna give Rod we're gonna give him a pass. We came back last week. He was like, hey, man, why Sam always laughing at Vance? He act like it's a comedy show. I said, Rod, have you sat with Vance for an hour? How can you sit with Vance for an hour and not laugh the whole time? Like, come on,
us.
man.
Life is too short not to laugh.
Rod, you know when you showed up in this chat, you know I was gonna say something, right? You know, you know I was gonna bring you up.
Oh my goodness!
No,
Hey, I'm talking about line at him again. If you want me to follow you on Twitter, you got to have a Go Blue or Michigan on your Twitter handle, or I won't follow you back. I'll follow at least 75 people because I saw the UM or Go Blue or something. But if I don't see that, I don't follow you back because you could be some insurance scam artist. So I can't go for that route. So if you want me to follow you back, I got to see that on your handle. Otherwise, I won't do it.
And last word as we get out of here. Hey, Mike Bear Sr. Man, I haven't heard a reply. We put the open invitation for you to join. So maybe it's not good in the game week. I get it, just like the players. The players don't want to do stuff in the game week. So, hey, Mike Bear Sr., come on with us in the bye week. You know, we just broke down the Mike Bear. I want to have Vance break down the Mike Bear Jr. play with you. You know, maybe we could go look at this play that the blitz, the forced fumble, and the recovery.
All on one play.
All on one play. So we got to make it happen. We got to make it happen. All right. We got to get out of here, folks. Hope you enjoyed another edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown. Focus on the defense. I want to remind those of you who live in this area, we're having our Beats Party over at Black Rock Bar and Grill Saturday. It's for those of you who aren't going to East Lansing, come hang out with us. We're going to have our pregame show there. We're going to be eating steaks, watching the game, talking about all we're going to see if Vance is right about his score prediction, all that. I wish we could get Vance up. I was going to fly him up, but he has obviously he's in Texas right now. So maybe another time. But the rest of you, come on down. We're going to have a good time. Remember, tomorrow, the film studies will go up. Also, live from 3 to 4, we will have the Steady Dropping Dimes episode with Devin Gardner and Daniel Horton. So a lot on the docket. And, of course, you can always catch us over on the MichiganInsider.com here on 24/7 Sports. We got to get out of here. We'll see you next time on the Michigan Football Breakdown. Focus on the defense with Vance Bedford.
Go Blue.